The headline goes, Anderson on Serie A wanted list. Apparently Lazio are interested. Now, as transfer rumours go, I would say this is one of the more believable ones. Number one, would they be interested? Yes, probably. That's where he came from. He probably performed better for them than he did for us. Look at the situation at West Ham. He hasn't had the best of last seasons. Would he move back? Yes, probably. Is he settled in London? We know he's not. He's not really learnt the language. Apparently his Italian is far better than his English, which he just hasn't been able to do. His family haven't joined him over here. And let's just say it hasn't worked out. In terms of what at the time was our record signing, it hasn't worked out. Would they want him back in terms of him being a good player? Yes, he is a good player. I think we can all agree that Felipe Anderson has a lot of talent. But wanting him back and being able to afford him are two very, very different things. The dust hasn't settled on the Premier League yet. Granted, I mean, we're not even going to know what's happened. But what I do firmly believe is that everybody's value is going to have decreased. We saw the, what can we say, the predatory side of that with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer yesterday and his comments. But I do, whilst I don't agree with, waiting for a club to go into administration and asset stripping, I'm not talking about that, but I do think there will be a natural reduction in the value of all clubs and all players. So, are we going to get our money back for Felipe Anderson? No. If they came back and said 25 million, well, I think there might be a deal there. We're never going to get the 36, 38, depending on what paper you read, whatever it was. But I also don't think we're going to get 30. But I think we'd take 25 million. Do Lazio have 25 million? No, they don't. Because whilst I say the dust hasn't settled on the Premier League yet, the dust hasn't settled on Serie A yet in Italy, but we do have a fair idea where it's going to go. The country's been more or less decimated by what's happened in the last 2 or 3 months. It shows no signs of relenting, by the way. Football is very much a side issue, a minor concern. It's in a bigger scale of a country that's in mourning, as Spain and Italy are, on complete lockdown. I mean, you can't go out your house. You'll get stopped by the police if you go outside your house. You'll have to justify it. You'll have to have some paperwork which you've printed off. With that in mind, they are going to be massively skint. I spoke yesterday about British clubs going into bankruptcy, liquidation, administration, closure, whatever you want to call it. Italy is going to be in a similar predicament. They can't afford 25 million for Felipe Anderson. But this deal could happen in the way that the Darren Randolph deal happens. The reason that deal happened with Middlesbrough is not because we necessarily wanted Darren Randolph any more than any other player. It was the fact that Middlesbrough still owed us money. We needed a goalkeeper, we needed cover for Lucas Fabianski, and it was attractive to Middlesbrough not to have to pay us the remaining payments. I don't know what it was. I believe we sold him to them for £1 million. Sorry, what am I talking about? 6, 7 million, something like that. My understanding is that they still owed us 2, 3 million, something like that. We take the player back. They don't have the financial liability of having to pay an extra 3 million, and that's, that's big money. That's important money to a championship club. Well, I'll tell you now, we won't have paid for all that Felipe Anderson stuff up front. I wouldn't be surprised, say it was 36 million, if Lazio still owe us 15 million. Not having to pay us back 15 million is going to be very, very attractive to them. Can they then top that up with extra money? No, they can't. They're still going to be skint. So that is stumbling block number 1. I'm going to come to that in a second. Stumbling block number 2 would be Felipe Anderson's wages. As I mentioned before, I think this is going to be a massive reality check for players, what's happened at the moment. I think players are going to want to either return home or return to somewhere where they're comfortable. I would imagine Felipe Anderson will take a pay cut to go back there. He'll have become an even more of a rich man over the last 2 or 3 years. So I think that stumbling block, the fact that Lazio won't be able to afford to pay as higher wages as West Ham, I don't think it's an issue. Whatever he's on at West Ham, 70, 80 grand a week. Will he go back to Lazio and take 50? I think so. The other stumbling block I mentioned was the money on top. Or maybe it's not money on top. Maybe it's a player. And a swap deal for Felipe Anderson with some money. Basically, no money changes hands. They don't have to pay us to 15 million. We give them Felipe Anderson and we get a player in return. Something like that. Which player, I hear you ask? Well, his name is Hirving Lozano. Who's Hirving Lozano? You say, you probably don't say that, do you? It's me that says, who's Hirving Lozano? Because I ain't got a clue anyone is. You lot are probably saying, I know Hirving Lozano. Good player. Of course you know him. Used to play for PSV. Scored 40 goals in 79 appearances. He's a winger. Signed for Lazio for 36 million quid, but didn't do too well. Didn't have the best of last season. In many respects, had a last season for Lazio like Felipe Anderson had for West Ham. So, he's Mexican. Do you remember the nasty, remember the niggly little fella, Gattuso? He's Lazio's manager. Remember him? Kicking everyone. He was a good player, wasn't he? I think he played in Scotland, played for Rangers, quite possibly, as well. Italian international, played for AC Milan. Good player. But Narky, the Roy Keane, the Dennis Wise of Italian football, let's say. Well, he's manager there. Apparently, he doesn't get on with Lozano. I'm confident I've pronounced that correctly, by the way. So, this has come straight out of... the link has come straight out of Italy as well. And it is suggested that there could be a swap. Instantly, I dismissed it until I remembered the money owed back for Lazio. I also look at a situation where we've got a young Nathan Holland coming through the ranks. We have got Diangana, who is, to use an often used phrase at the moment, is oven ready. He's ready to come straight back into West Ham's first team. Will occupy exactly the same position as Felipe Anderson. Although, remember, Diangana is left-footed rather than right-footed. But whatever, you know. If he wants someone to cut him, he can swap them over. Bowen's over on the right-hand side at the moment. He can do anything he wants. You've got Nathan Holland coming through. Another loan for Nathan Holland. And then Nathan Holland would sit on that bench quite nicely. And then, of course, as mentioned before, you've got young Kai Corbett coming through the ranks as well. So, I think it's a goer. I think it can happen. Would you do it? What do you reckon?